As promised, they returned with fire and blood. Riding Meraxes, Rhaenys Targaryen went ahead and set Planky Town ablaze, but left the nearby town of Lemonwood intact, so they can witness the flames and smoke rising from the floating town. Aegon understood well that the conquest with just dragons will not last, so he assembled all his might, an army of 30,000 souls, and marched into Dorne. He took the bulk of the army and entered the Prince's Pass, while his hand, Orys Baratheon, took some 1,000 knights via the Bonway, aiming to take Ironwood by surprise. But the Dornish men never offered battle. Instead, they showed Aegon and his allies a different type of war, the war of attrition. As they advanced, they found towns abandoned, fountains poisoned, crops burned, animals dead and rotten. The blistering sun above Dorne was the biggest enemy. Even in winter, it was bright and hot, making people and horses want to drink more water than usual. Once out of the pass, Aegon sent half of his force towards Hellholt, with Lord Harlan Tyrell at its helm. Horses and men died on the way, and when they got there, they found the town abandoned, no food or crops to eat, and the wells poisoned. Up in the Bone Pass, Orys Baratheon and the King's Knights were making good progress until they reached the higher, more treacherous pathways, where big boulders were dropped from above, out of nowhere, by attackers they didn't even see. As they tried to cross the River Will, a huge army appeared and rained arrows upon them. Orys Baratheon ordered the retreat, but behind, a massive rockfall blocked their way. They were pelted with arrows and rocks, and little of them survived. Those that did, among them Orys himself, were taken captive to the fastness of Will, an old ally of House Martell of Dorne. The king himself was a bit more successful. He took Skyreach by storm, which provided access to water, and with water they could boil some food. With energy restored, they descended upon Ironwood and took it after a brief siege. From here, they advanced towards Tor, where, with the recent passing of the king, the regent ceded the castle without a fight. As they approached Ghost Hill, Aegon found this to be empty too. When the Dragon King finally reached the Dornish capital Sunspear, there was no sign of Princess Martell either. He only found his sister Rhaenys and 3 more towns that she'd taken without a fight, among them the busy port of Lemonwood. She accepted obeisances from women and children, the only ones occupying the towns. Nobody acknowledged where the lords and princes were, nor where the men were. Aegon had nothing left to do but declare victory. He gathered what little Dornish dignitaries remained behind, told them that he is king from now on, named a few of his men as castellans and stewards to rule the castles he has conquered, along with a warden of the sands to rule Dorne in his name. Then he departed for King's Landing. But something was amiss. It didn't feel like a full victory. The little resistance he encountered felt suspicious. And he was right. No sooner that King Aegon and his troops reached King's Landing, that Dorne erupted into full rebellion. Dornish men appeared from nowhere and recaptured all cities within a fortnight. Literally everything was taken back and the castellans put to swords or tortured to death. For 7 years, this war would drag on with attacks and retaliations, assassinations, raids and short truces and periods of inactivity. In year 9 AC, after Visenya and Aegon burned more cities with their dragons, the Dornish retaliated and attacked villages all the way into the Reach, stirring the fury of the high towers of Oldtown. They rallied their troops to push out the raiding force, but that was anticipated by the Dornish, so a second army came via the sea and attacked Oldtown itself. Although the walls of the town proved impregnable, the Oldtown was the biggest city in the realm, so an attack here was incredibly brazen. This type of harassment and never-ending problems were putting Aegon's patience and pride to the test. With fury in their purple eyes, in year 10 AC, Visenya, Rhaenys and Aegon returned to Dorne on the back of their dragons to rain fire over the Sand Vipers. Aegon descended upon Skyreach with Balerion, Visenya and Vhagar on Starfall, and Rhaenys and Meraxes on Hellholt. And that is where tragedy struck. Dragons are mighty beasts. Their scales and skin are harder than steel, but they are not without weakness. As Meraxes banked above Hellholt, a defender atop the castle's highest tower triggered the scorpion arrow that hit the dragon right in the eye. Meraxes came crashing down in mortal agony, taking a tower with him and a large section of the wall. Much speculation is on what happened with Rhaenys. Either she fell to her death, got crushed under the dragon, or was captured and died in the Dornish dungeons. One thing is certain: Rhaenys Targaryen, sister and wife of King Aegon the Conqueror, died at Hellholt in Dorne in the 10th year after Aegon's conquest. They say Targaryens are closer to gods than men, and so is their ego. For the next 2 years, Aegon and Visenya returned again and again to Dorne, riding their dragons with fury and burning each and every city 2 or 3 times over. Hellholt, in particular, was never allowed to build another tower. The fires of Valyria were so hot that sand fused into glass in places. No Dornish lords were spared, no prisoners taken. Every single port, ship or man bearing the Dornish banner would die. But the Dornish were stubborn as well. They continued the harassment with assassinations, murders and insults to House Targaryen. They remained unbowed, unbent and unbroken. It was only when the Dornish princess died in 13 AC that peace returned. Her 60-year-old son was no fan of continuing to make war, so the first thing he did was to send a peace delegation to King's Landing, led by his own daughter. The peace offering was enticing, but it did not include submission. After so much bloodshed on both sides, a dragon and a sister lost. Accepting such a peace would show signs of weakness across the realm, and would mean Rhaenys died in vain. When Aegon politely refused the Dornish daughter, she handed him a letter from her father, and for Aegon's eyes only. It is said that as he read the letter while on the Iron Throne, Aegon's hand was dripping blood so hard he was gripping the throne's armrests. He burned the letter, mounted Balerion, and went to his home in Dragonstone, where he spent the night. The next day, he returned and accepted the peace offering, signing a treaty of eternal peace. What was written in that letter remains unknown to this day. What is certain was that the First Dornish War ended in 13 AC after 9 years of heavy fighting. This was to be Aegon's last war as King of Westeros.